and welcome to our interview with the United Astrology Conference Board and Planning Committee series, long name. Um, I'm Melissa, and today we are joined by Laura Nalbandian, who is our conference coordinator. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Laura Nalbandian. I am, in fact, the UAC 2026 conference coordinator for UAC that will be happening in Chicago September 3rd through the 9th-ish. There's early events, pre and post. Um, so some of you might be asking, what is UAC? What is United Astrology Conference? It really started out as United Astrology Congress, and it was started by, the leaders in the community in the kind of early to mid 80s. And people like Marion D. March and Michael Lewis, Neil Mickelson, Jim Lewis. I mean, there's just a whole host of names. Jeff Jower of that generation really wanted to bring these organizations together. And at that time, there were three of them. So there was ESAR, NCGR, and AFAN. And AFAN was born out of the breakup of, or the community not being happy with AFA at the time. AFA is lovely and wonderful now, but back in the 70s and 80s, they were not. And so the community was fed up with their secrecy and whatever else they were doing and said, that's it, we're done. And so they broke off, and as a sort of thumbing their nose at AFA at the time, developed AFAN. Which is the Association for Astrological Networking. And so AFAN, ESAR, and NCGR came together to create the United Astrology Congress. And eventually that morphed into a United Astrology Conference. And so it was bringing together these groups to sponsor this one big conference. And it happened for the first time in 1986 in San Diego. And in fact, there's a whole big video on it, and I think that Chris did a whole live stream on running that video of the documentary of the 1986 conference. They were expecting a few hundred people and got overrun with like 1,200. And so the hotel really didn't know what to do with it. So they were putting tents in the parking lot.
What
I
a
was,
lovely problem to
I
have.
know, I know. That they had a parking lot to put tents in is great. It was also under the flight path, which was a little tough from the airport. But I've been to every single UAC starting in 86, except for 1989, the second UAC. So they started to operate every 3 years. And then, every now and then personal differences and politics get into play, and it stretched out to 4 years. And then it was 6 years, and then it was 8 years now. And so hopefully they can get themselves back on track to a 4 year kind of deal. And so 1980, as I said, 1986 was in San Diego. 1989 was in New Orleans. 1992 was in Washington, D.C. 1995 was in Monterey, California. So big that it took two hotels next door to each other. So there was, again, 1,300 people. 1998 was in Atlanta. 2002, that was the jump of 6 years. Was that 4 years, 6 years anyway?
That was four, yeah.
Four. And so, 1998 to 2002, yes. And because it had been 3 years up to that point. And that was my first conference that I coordinated for UAC, and that was in
Nice.
Orlando, or outside of Orlando. It was in a Disney property at a Wyndham.
Ooh.
And that was just right after 9/11. So the international community really kind of was a little leery. So we had about 900 to 1,000 people there. It's respectable for that time period. And then there was some political fallout, and we didn't have a conference until 2008. That was in Denver. And then it did a nice 4-year span from 2008 to 2012, which was in New Orleans. And then another 6 years to get us to 2018. So, you have to get groups of people together. You
Yeah.
have to, and then find somebody who's going to coordinate the darn thing and get people who want to volunteer. It's a considerable amount of work, and it usually takes anywhere from 2 to 2.5 years to actually put the whole thing together,
Yeah.
from beginning to end. I was the registrar for 2012, and I can't remember whether I was the registrar for 2008, but I don't think so. I thought I did the registrar for twice, but I can't be absolute certain.
That's fair. So was the goal from the beginning, because I know it's called, United
Yes,
Astrology Congress
yes.
Conference, was it always to reach more international audiences?
Yeah, well, first the intention was to bring the organizations together because there was always some level of competition in politics.
Hmm.
So they really wanted to come together and unite, create an environment where everybody could show up, international speakers. The biggest conference up to that point had been AFA conferences that had, 1,200 people plus at them. So they really wanted to create an environment that was more open, more egalitarian, more equal, more, right?
Hmm.
And so creating a share process. In the old days, AFA made you pay for your travel, made you pay for the conference, and you didn't get paid to speak.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, United Astrology Conference was born, and again, I don't want to slam AFA. AFA is
Yeah.
lovely today, run by some
Yes.
amazing people, which you will likely see again on one of these videos. So they're awesome. And so, this is just back in the day, old school politics and how things were done. And it was modeled after corporate conferences where you do exactly that. You pay your way,
Hmm.
you pay for the conference, and you don't get paid. So it was modeled after a more corporate or even academic structure. Academic structures are just like that.
Yeah.
So um, it just created a more level playing field. They said we're going to, split the profits and create shares for the speakers. If the conference doesn't do well, then the speakers have to take that risk as well as the orgs. So um, even from day one, it was a huge success.
Nice, nice. Um, do you, I guess, because as the coordinator, you have so many past numbers. Do you have some of the stats, I guess, on the
Yeah,
scope of this initially,
I
other
have
than just the
them.
1200?
Sure, I'm going to try to get to them. We had, here it says, AFN, NCGR, and ESAR. 500 were expected since AFA was scheduled for Los Angeles 2 weeks later, and 1,300 showed up. In 1989, French Quarter, New Orleans, Steamboat Cruise, doesn't show the numbers for 1989. They might be on the history of on the website. Um,
Yes, which we can link down below.
yes, and then 1992. Wow, no numbers here either. That
Okay.
was Joan Quigley. I remember her. Reagan's astrologer showed up for the keynote.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Somebody had an in with her. Then it was ESAR night. Nope, they've got ESAR tucked in there. UAC 1995 in Monterey. Now, why didn't they put that? See, I didn't put together this PowerPoint, but again, I think all the numbers were around 12 to 1300. UAC 2018 was 1490, something like that. And all these
Mhm.
numbers would include speakers and vendors. So it's all the bodies that were there.
Well, and I love that, like, yes, it was to, kind of thumb their nose up at an org who was being kind of, stingy at the time,
Old
exclusionary at the
school.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah. But that it starts as these orgs coming together to try to, overcome some of their competition with each other.
Right.
Have you noticed then, as somebody who's been in the community since like before the conferences as well, that this has made a difference?
Look, people are people.
Yeah.
I don't care whether they're astrology people or people out there in the street. People are people.
Hmm.
And as people and humans, we tend to operate in a fear-based mode subconsciously and sometimes very consciously. So there's always a fear for humans about there's a limited amount of space, there's a limited amount of resources, a limited amount of this and that. I personally don't believe that, nor have I ever operated that way.
Hmm.
But when you think there's only so much to go around and it seems like somebody over there is getting more than I have, it sets in competition and other things. And I think that having United Astrology Conference has over time helped to diminish that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's helped to diminish some of the, at least in the past, the hierarchical elements of the celebrity astrologers and sort of being, mm, isolated a bit.
yeah. Yeah. So then what are your hopes for this upcoming conference? I know that, the last one was in 2018, and there's a lot of reasons why it's going to have been 8 years since the last one. One of the big ones being the big P word that's, also an L word, that's also a C word. And since then, the astrology community has also shifted in a lot of ways. So,
We
what
have
are,
we have no idea what's going to happen. We really
yeah.
don't. We could sell out because of the uptick and the absolute growth in our industry.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard to say because a lot of the shifts in the industry have to do with mm, access to information being free.
Mhm.
So there's been a whole growth industry since 2020 of an ever increasing availability of free material. And so are there people out there who can't afford it and say, hey, I can get as much information as I want on the internet? Here's
Mhm.
the thing. Yes, you can. But what you can never get ever, that you can only get at a conference, I don't care whose conference it is, whose conference it is, you will not be able to get connection.
Mhm.
And that is the secret sauce to any gathering like this. It is the knowledge that you are in a space with that many people who have a common language, astrology. Yes, we have different dialects, but we have a common language, astrology, where all of us at some time or another have felt isolated, that nobody understands us. We feel strange outside of things. And all of a sudden, here is this environment where there's anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people all speaking your language. And it's just amazing. Not only you're absorbing stuff from lectures, all the conversations you're having are anchoring the information you're picking up and you're building on it and you're building relationships. Connection, man. Connection is the secret sauce that happens that you cannot get studying on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. And we won't get too into it. Having just been to my first NORWAC in person, which you've been running for years now, um, I will say, like, I've been to online conferences, online astrological conferences, and I think from an educational standpoint, that can be very helpful. But I think from the community standpoint, going in person and like, we take precautions, we do what we need to do that, but preparing and going in person was an entirely different experience, entirely different positive experience. So I'm very excited to be, well, first of all, interviewing you for this our series, and we will be talking again. But also just to be able to do this with you to help put this on, because if it's as big or even almost as big as we're planning, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Melissa.
Since this is the first conversation with you, where can viewers find more about you?
Well, you can go to my website, lauranalbandian.com. And that's pretty simple, although the last name is long. There's just lots of A's in it, lauranalbandian.com. And don't forget, of course, to go to uacastrology.com to see what we're about. Registration is going to open August 18th, so get the jump on that.
Absolutely. And I will pop all of those links down below. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Lara, and we hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you for joining us today. You can find new episodes on our channel every Monday and Wednesday, continuing through to the United Astrology Conference in 2026. We also invite you to attend UAC 2026, taking place in Chicago, Illinois from September 3rd to the 9th. As the largest astrological conference in the world, UAC offers an unparalleled opportunity to deepen your astrological studies and connect with a global community. With over 270 lectures, more than 180 esteemed speakers, and 1,500 attendees, this gathering is a cornerstone event for both seasoned professionals and dedicated students of astrology. For details on registration, scholarships, volunteer opportunities, or advertising, please visit uacastrology.com or refer to the links in the description box below.